Keeping your business healthy in today's marketplace can be a challenging and overwhelming task. From the threat of litigation inside and outside your organization and the inefficiencies that can rob your bottom line as a result of unproven marketing programs, the deck can be stacked against you. To get ahead of these challenges and stay ahead of your competition, the Bottled Business Sense Show provides practical business solutions that uniquely emphasize key legal principles, management techniques, and marketing strategies to protect and ensure the longevity of your business. You'll learn how to implement marketing and protection principles equal to those used by today's most successful corporations. Join your host, Bill Bernard, Rick Moscoso, and Steve Smith for some high-energy discussion that will inspire you to take control of your business so it can prosper in today's consistently challenging business environment.
Welcome to another episode of the Bottled Business Sense Show. We broadcast these shows in simulcast every week, so whether you're listening on Blog Talk Radio or you're watching us on Google Hangouts on air, we want to make sure that you don't miss any of the conversations or the insights that come out of these discussions that we have. My name is Steve Smith. I'm one of the co-hosts, and I'm joined by the two guys that actually founded this show, Bill Bernard and Rick Moscoso. Guys, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Steve. Thanks. Glad to be here for another week. Every week, every Tuesday, we're here to help our business owners protect and prosper in their business, and we're happy to do it. How you doing, Rick?
Hey, I'm doing great, Bill and Steve. Great to be here again. We have a lot of fun in this show, delivering some valuable, what we hopefully feel is valuable content to our audience, and we kind of share ideas, we share topics, and try and intermingle all of these things amongst our expertise, and hopefully our audience is finding great value from that. And so today, what do we have on topic for today, Steve?
Well, today we're going to be talking about one of the areas of business that we've talked about before, and it's right up Mr. Bernard's alley, and it has to do with how do you choose the right business attorney for your business. And this is an important area because every business at some point either plans to have an attorney on retainer that they can go to when they have issues come up, they have questions, things like that, or they end up going out and finding one really quickly because they're already embroiled in some problem. So, Bill, I think the focus of today's show ought to be how to help business owners figure out how to quickly vet an attorney and find out which one is going to be the right one for them, because there's certainly plenty to choose from, especially here in Orange County, but you can't choose them all, so at some point you have to make a decision, and we're hoping you'll be able to guide us through that process.
Well, thanks, Steve. I think the thing you just touched upon a minute ago is where we should start, and that is I like to think of it as the psychology of getting over the DIY syndrome. I mean, there are a lot of business owners out there that perceive attorneys as being expensive, and my goodness, I don't know if they're really going to be in my corner. I think you have to the first step you have to take is to get over that type of thinking and understand that you shouldn't just have an attorney on your side for your business when it comes to the defense. In other words, when you're sued and then you need somebody to represent you in court, you should have the attorney on board from the very get-go. Forget the DIY stuff. If for no other reason, then you want things prepared properly so you never get to the courthouse steps. That's first and foremost, in my opinion.
All right, let me break in here, because here's something that I find in a lot of different businesses, not just attorneys, CPAs, things like that. But if businesses, whether they be in startup mode or kind of early expansion mode, have not dealt with or retained an attorney, many times, like you just said, gee, what is this going to cost? This is going to cost an arm and a leg. And regardless of what you tell them, there's the initial sticker shock because they have nothing to compare it to. So what are the different ways that attorneys charge for their services or for their time or things like that? What should somebody be expecting so they can figure out what's the right type of service for them?
Well, they want a flexible lawyer, and here's what I mean by that. Somebody who they can approach and say, look, I need an attorney. I think it's an important function. I think it's an important tool to have in my toolbox. What are you going to charge? And that is when the attorney has to be flexible in a couple of different ways. One, depending upon the client's needs and the success of the business at the point the attorney meets the client, he or she should be flexible in his fees. By that I mean willing to not have a hardcore hourly rate that he or she charges, and then secondarily to also offer a flat fee, because a lot of this work for businesses is going to be contractual in nature, and sometimes you can easily prepare a contract on a flat fee basis versus an hourly basis. So either way you go, that allows the business owner to now say, hey, I've got an attorney who can be flexible both in what he's going to charge me hourly compared to the big, huge firms, and I've got an attorney who, under some circumstances, if not all, I'll be able to negotiate a flat fee with, and that's going to make the business owner sit up and take notice, I think, because otherwise you're dealing with lawyers that are in the high three figures per hour if you go to the big law firms.
All right, so let's just say I'm at a point where I need to retain an attorney because I've got things that I'm trying to do in my business, and there's some legal aspects, and that's not my area of expertise. So now I don't personally know any attorneys. I'm starting from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Where should I go look in order to find the kind of attorney that I'm ultimately I'm going to be happy hiring?
Well, the easiest way, and there are a number of professional sites, and I can get into a couple of those, but the easiest way for people who aren't experienced with using various attorney websites would be to Google business attorneys, and of course, I would suggest that you do a couple of things. When you Google business attorneys in your specific area, and I mean get specific in terms of a local jurisdiction, look at their website and find testimonials about the attorney that he or she has posted. If in fact the attorney has not posted testimonials, to me personally, that's a red flag right there. You want to see what other clients are going to be saying about this lawyer. And then you will also be automatically pointed when you start looking at these lawyers to the various websites that are hooked up on Google, like AVVO, a famous attorney website where you can go and search out a number of different lawyers in a number of different fields. And I could go on and on, but those sites exist. If worse comes to worse, Steve and Rick, you Google.
And all of a sudden he stopped.
Beyond the old.
There you go.
Far beyond the old phone book, that people used to use years ago.
Okay, so Rick, here's a place where you can chime in on this discussion, because this kind of gets more into how lawyers make themselves visible and available to people who are looking for them. Mm-hmm. I've been on legal websites before. Many of them now have the capability for a lawyer to put a video, something maybe a minute or two long, just kind of describing who they are, what they specialize in, why I should hire them. But I find a lot of lawyers that don't do that. So in your mind, Rick, if you're out there looking for a lawyer, and I don't know if you've ever had to hire one or not, if you found a lawyer and there wasn't a video, you weren't able to get that communication visually, would that deter you from looking at them, or does it make any difference?
To me, it makes a huge difference, because I want to be able to do the research, see if there's a connection with his personality that he's portraying online via a video. It doesn't, the type of video that they would put on there, I don't think needs to be very complicated. Just enough to, share their character, develop a little bit of trust, and for Bill, that was one of our goals was to produce something like that, so they could see, they could hear him. They could understand what he does, and to me, I would be less likely to pick somebody who didn't have a video versus someone like Bill who does have a video, because then at least I get to know them a little bit even before I make that phone call.
All right, so Bill, now that you've heard Rick's perspective on that, what I'm interested in, because I know you've done some videos, so you've already bought onto that way of marketing yourself. Mm-hmm. From the community that you're involved in, the legal community, what's the sense amongst lawyers in general about demonstrating who they are using videos, so that people might be able to connect with them and feel a little better about contacting them to talk about what they need?
That's a good question. I think the video, in my view, is twofold. One, to give you some sort of a personality that perhaps the person can connect with, an introduction, a little bit about your background, because let's face it, when you go to choose an attorney, one thing we haven't talked about, and I'm sure we were going to, is that you're going to want to make sure this attorney is functional, if you will, and the things that you need for your business. Whether it's specific products that you sell or whether it's service contracts that you need to have fostered, you want to make sure this attorney has those capabilities. So that the videos that I like to see are, one, videos which have an introductory component to them so you can get to kind of a feel for what this attorney's personality and background is like, and then of course the second type of video which has the more substance to it that really speaks to what the attorney can accomplish for you.
All right, so your business is not much different than mine when it comes to having that kind of personal contact before somebody's willing to retain you for what you provide. Mm-hmm. What we haven't talked about is referrals.
Right.
How, just, I mean, you don't have to give away any trade secrets, but just from a general, percentage type split, what percentage of the work that you get, the cases you get, come through referral versus somebody just finding you on the internet?
I would say at one time it was about 75 referrals, 25 internet, but I would say now it's getting closer to about 60-40, 60 referrals, 40 internet, pretty close to that, because with all the hard work I've been doing trying to promote the internet aspect of my practice, including great advice from you and Rick. That has really gone up. I make it a point of asking a client when he or she calls where they found me, and the internet seems to be growing more and more for me. Not to say referrals aren't. Referrals are a big part of it, but the internet has picked up quite a bit, and I am surprised and I'm not surprised. I never thought I could get to this point on the internet, but quite frankly, with all the work I've been putting in, it shouldn't come to us as a surprise. So the internet's been very kind to me, and that again is all due to the amount of work that you put into it, I think, Steve.
All right, so let's get down to some very simple things that our listeners or our viewers can actually retain. So when they're in a position of looking for a lawyer, they know what to look for. Okay, mm-hmm. So it's kind of like opening up the back curtain and seeing what you guys do behind the scenes. So let me set up the scenario real quick. Let's say I have a legal matter in my business. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to have that kind of divert the attention to the tips. But let's just say you have a pressing legal matter. You're not being sued, but you're on the horizon of something that you see that eventually is going to be a problem, so you want to get ahead of it. Okay.
Right.
Let's say between people you found on the internet and some people you've been recommended, you're down to 3 attorneys that you've had one conversation with on the phone to get an idea of what they charge and how they work and things like that. Okay, so that's where you are. You get 3 people, either from the internet or referred, that you've had conversations with. Now, at that point, can you give us 5 simple things that a business owner should be considering before they make that all-important choice of who to go to?
Sure, and I think one of them is what I mentioned already, and that would be the flexibility of the attorney. Flexibility is a key item, and by flexibility I mean not only in terms of hourly fees, but is he or she willing to offer flat fees. Secondarily, I think knowledge. I think contract-based knowledge for any business is going to be very key, very important. I think thirdly would be litigation experience. Is this attorney capable of representing you in court? Should it come to that, or do you have to go out and hire another attorney for that and then re-educate that attorney and get charged more money in the process? The fourth thing I would say would be personal contact. I can't tell you how many clients love the fact that I have a cell phone number, a direct cell phone number that they get, so when they call me, they don't get 5 or 6 different people. They either get me or they leave a message because I'm in court, in a meeting, or with a client. They absolutely love that. And I think probably the last thing would again be, hey, do you have anybody that I can call that has used you before and that's happy with you or not happy, obviously happy with you, and you're going to be able to give them solid references. And the easiest thing for me to do is always just to say, hey, I'm happy to give them to you, but look on my website. There's not only video testimonials, there are written testimonials, and there's also a list of clients that I've had so they can see the differentiating type of clients that I've had in various areas of business. So I think those 5 things, think about that, Steve and Rick. I don't know, frankly, that there's that many lawyers out there that really can say, hey, I'm going to offer you all 5 of those things, especially if you're calling a big law firm with a big reputation. It's just not going to happen.
All right, so in your experience, either working with clients, I'm kind of put you on the spot a little bit here, so I'll let you know that coming up. In your working with clients or in your having referred maybe a client to another lawyer, have you ever had a situation where that client has had to fire the lawyer, and if so, what was it that made them decide that they couldn't work with that attorney anymore?
Do you mean, am I familiar with a client who has fired another attorney and then came to me? Is that what you're getting at?
Well, either that or maybe you referred that client to another attorney that maybe was better suited for what they were looking for, and they ended up firing that person. So, I mean, can you give us a sense of when people get to the point where they no longer want to work with their attorney, what is it that usually causes that problem to happen? What's the dissatisfaction?
The disconnect, I think, is in the communication process, and I know that sounds like a simplistic answer, but really what it means is this. The attorney's one of the hardest jobs a lawyer has is sitting down and taking the legalese and the knowledge that only the attorney has and converting it into layperson's language so the client can understand it. And if an attorney is not good at doing that, 9 times out of 10, that client's going to come back and say, you didn't tell me this, it wasn't clear that's what you wanted, you told me I was going to win and now it looks like the ship is sinking. You've got to be able to do that, and here's how you do it. You sit down and you talk in layperson's language because you're going to meet with the client frequently. Don't be one of those lawyers that calls your client twice a year. It sounds crazy, but they're out there. Secondly, put it in a letter. Put it in a letter so the client can understand, and do it frequently. You don't have to charge the client a heck of a lot of money to do that. Or maybe even in an email. That does 2 things. It explains to the client in simple language what's going on and invites any further questions. And what else does it do? It protects you because you've now documented the file, telling the client along the way what's going on and making sure that you're putting the ball in their court to call you if they have any confusion or any questions.
Okay, so now let's say I'm the business owner, I've retained a lawyer, and from time to time I'm calling them and I'm asking them questions, or I'm trying to find out if, what to do in certain situations that are coming up. From your experience, can you tell us what things the client should not be asking the attorney to do? Because I can just see, clients that have never worked with an attorney before, certainly don't know them as friends and understand how they work. They're liable to ask all kind of crazy stuff that could make an attorney go nuts trying to think, okay, how am I going to explain that you can't do that? So what are some of the things you've run into that people have asked you to do that either weren't kosher or weren't in your bailiwick of expertise, or just basically weren't legal?
Well, yeah. Well, listen, we could make a 2-hour movie on that. But the bottom line is, oftentimes people will try to fish around and try to ask you to do something that does not measure up to the specs of a case. And one of the hardest things an attorney has to do is to say, I don't think you have a case. I'm not saying you can't win absolutely, but I'm not interested because I don't think you can make it. I don't think we're going to have a case here. And that's a tough thing to swallow sometimes for a client, because the attorney's got to be candid with the client. Another issue I see pop up all the time is money. Can I pay you later? Do I have to really put money in a retainer account? Well, with some clients you can be flexible. With others, you may need costs to cover depositions or filing fees, and many times the client will ask you to cover the costs. But strictly from a problematic point of view, Steve, clients will sometimes press you to file cases that just aren't tenable, or, and you got to be careful of this, sometimes they'll ask you based on a malicious or malice feeling toward the other individual, and not based on any real theory of law. And you've got to say no, or else you're doing yourself and the client a disservice.
Yeah. So in that situation, they're doing it for revenge, not because it's legally viable.
Yes, I was trying to stay away from that word, but that's exactly it. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Rick. I know you had something to say there. Jump on in.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I remember when we first started doing video marketing for you, and you taped a few things, and I thought it was really interesting that you kind of stood out in your mind when you said, a good lawyer really has to be able to step back and look at things unemotionally, because there's a lot of because in your business there's a lot of emotion involved, both very extreme emotion involved, and for somebody like you to be able to step back and just do it unemotionally, be the third party, and decide whether it's right or wrong that you proceed is really what basically made you stand out in my mind versus other attorneys that I know.
Well, that's another great point, Rick, and Steve, really, that's really what you need to do too. You should, if you're looking for an attorney, hopefully you're looking for a lawyer who's going to be honest with you, who's going to objectively tell you what he thinks of your case in the beginning, and as you move forward, should you move forward. You do not want somebody who's just going to tell you what you want to hear. That is it's an attorney's obligation to be candid and straightforward and to tell the client the pitfalls that they're facing. Not that they may not have a decent case, but you're facing XYZ pitfalls at the beginning, or perhaps the pitfalls come later on. And you have to be careful, because many times, you will find out things from a client as the litigation proceeds that you did not hear about at the beginning of the litigation. And
Sure.
Of course, your question will be, why didn't you tell me this before?
All right,
but
so
you deal with it.
So as a final question to kind of wrap up this, I'm sure you've run into business owners or professionals who have all of a sudden been kind of thrown into a tailspin of litigation or a legal problem that is now just kind of right in front of them.
Right.
Can you give us some sense as to when it's really too late? Is there a point at which somebody would call you with something and there's really nothing you can do for them because too much has gone by, or is it really never too late when it comes to dealing with lawsuits or legal issues?
No, I think the only time it's quote-unquote too late is if some statutory obligation is passed. In other words, where they want to file something but it's too late to do it, maybe a certain pleading, maybe a notice of appeal, that's when it's too late. But if they call you up and it's not too late by way of any kind of prohibition that the court has set, then you have to ask them what their goal is, because don't forget, many times, especially in business litigation, cases can settle. And so even though you may be on the losing end, you may want a good negotiator, and I would highly recommend that you as a layperson not attempt to negotiate with the other side. Even if you're close to the end of the game, bring in a lawyer and see what he may be able to pull out of the hat in order to help you, and maybe at the very least get the case settled. Maybe not for as much as you wanted, or maybe you have to pay a little more than you wanted if you're on the other side. But I think it's well worth it. It's well worth it.
Well, Bill, listen, thanks a lot for sharing some of these insights, because I know that many people who have not had dealings with attorneys or just don't understand how they operate, it can be intimidating. So we appreciate you, giving us some of your kind of back alley knowledge about what's going on out there. And if somebody likes what they're hearing here and they want to try to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Well, my phone numbers, personal phone numbers, are both 949 area code. One is the cell, which is 413-6535. The other is the office phone, 698-6222. That's 6222. And then, of course, email bill@wfblegalconsulting.com. And then, of course, the website has an area where you can punch in information at wfblegalconsulting.com. I run a boutique firm. I pay very close attention to my clients. And I try to give them a lot of personalized service as much as I possibly can, working around other conflicts and other cases that I have. So happy to help anybody, and thanks, guys. I appreciate the opportunity to do this because I do think it's important, and hopefully our business owners out there got some benefit from it.
Yeah, and for everybody that is either watching this live as we're doing it today, or might be watching this on a replay in various places that we posted. Usually within the information box we'll have the contact information for either folks on the program or guests that we might have. So you always have that as a way to contact anybody from the show. So again, Bill, thank you very much. Rick, any final thoughts from you before we sign off?
No, this was a great show, and I'm sure that the audience has some great insight into how to select somebody like Bill. In fact, just don't even go anywhere else. Just call Bill.
Just call Bill.
Thank you. I think I'm going to have you guys, start cold calling because you guys do a great job. So this is a perfect example for everybody listening. You can't have a more powerful tool than referrals from people who believe in you and then trust you, and I feel the same way about these guys. So take that into consideration, everybody, and check people out before you hire them. You want to make sure you're getting the right guy or gal.
All right, guys, thanks again for a great show. We will meet up and do this next week. And for all of you listening and watching, remember, this is the Bottle Business Sense Show signing off. Take care. Have a great week.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.